In today's gospel, we heard that when Jesus went back home, he began to teach in the synagogue. Yet all who heard did not accept him as teacher or a prophet. They were offended that this person whom they knew as a child would dare come to the synagogue and teach them about God. After all, he was just the son of a carpenter. Where and how did he get all of this wisdom, they asked. They were resentful that a person who came from the same place they did, that lived the same way they did, could come to such knowledge, such wisdom. They even rejected him, so he could not perform the miracles he had outside this city, or even teach the people what they needed to know in order to save themselves. He saw this and even commented that a prophet is not without honor except in his native place. Could we have been one of these non-believers? In being one of the non-believers, what does that do to us? Well, I think back several years ago when my son Connor was in high school, and he was working maintenance for the church during the summers. His boss's name was Tom Gibbons, and Tom could fix just about anything, but he was an electrician by trade. Well, one day I was changing out a light switch in my hallway. There's a switch at the bottom of the stairs, then one at the landing, and then another one at the very top. All three switches controlled one light. After about an hour or so of frustrations not being able to hook up those wires, my son said to me, "I can do this." I thought, no way. This is the same kid who several years ago, when I was painting that same hallway, I handed him the roller and I said, "Here, this is how you do it." He took the roller, gave it one swipe, handed it back to me and said, "No thanks, this isn't for me." Well, I thought that this was not a kid who could do electrician stuff. I knew him in his toddler years through Little League, Pop Warner, good times, bad times, and he never seemed to be interested in any kind of household repair. How would he know about a simple light switch? He did start to tell me how to connect these wires, but I just cut him off. I said, "There's no way you could possibly know how to do this." I wasn't in mind of what his summer job was. I was just thinking of how he was as a child. I figured if I couldn't do it, how could he do it? I didn't believe in him. I didn't believe in his abilities, in his maturity. Well, not giving him a chance made me recognize, the Holy Spirit helped me to recognize a blind spot in my thinking that I needed to overcome. Not only that I didn't think he could do the job, but to realize he could possibly do something that I could not myself. Because this was about my own house. Well, the acceptance that he was no longer a little kid who just played baseball, football, kept his room a mess, and when I asked that question, "What did you do in school today?" I still got that answer, "Nothing." But the fact that he was a young adult establishing himself in the working world, preparing himself to move away, was a foreign concept to me. But I couldn't see it. I don't think I wanted to see it. I wasn't open to it. I think that was the thorn in my flesh that Paul mentions in the second reading today. This thorn in the flesh kept Paul from being elated or that beat him. So what was this thorn that didn't allow Paul to have that openness about himself, that blocked him from this openness and this fulfillment? We don't really know what it was because the scriptures don't tell us. We have to ask ourselves, was it something physical? Something maybe that hampered his walking because, as we know, he walked from town to town spreading the word. Was it an emotional issue? One of possibly feeling inferior to others, or maybe some other kind of insecurity? Could it have been the troubles he was having with some of the churches that were established in the different cities? After all, the church was in its infancy, and the issues they had to deal with far outnumbered the issues we have today. But like today, there are issues that are real, and they do separate the people. Could he have been dealing with something of this nature? We just don't know. And I believe the reason we don't know, we weren't told, is because we all have a thorn in the flesh. We all have some kind of physical infirmity, emotional concern, or even spiritual weakness that we have to deal with. Whether or not we deal with it publicly or privately, that's our own business. But it is our concern, our stumbling block, our thorn to deal with. We see Paul as our example of what can be done when we recognize this thorn and deal with it, not letting it separate us from God. We don't let it get in our way or let ourselves get distracted from it, from what we're trying to attain. It's what makes us stronger in our lives and in our faith. Paul continued his journeys the rest of his life with much success, so he must have put that thorn in its place. Well, another thought I had was that the Summer Olympics are pretty close by, and I was thinking about all those athletes who must have had some kind of thorn themselves. I thought of Jesse Owens, an African-American track star who in 1936 won 4 gold medals against all odds when prejudice was open against African Americans. Jesse said, "The battles that count aren't the ones for the gold medals. The struggles within yourself, the invisible, inevitable battles inside all of us, that's where it's at." How true a statement that is. I believe that through the working of the Holy Spirit, I recognized my closed mind in believing my son was anything but a boy who challenged my rules at every turn. It was an interior battle for me to open my mind to the thought that he was no longer that boy. He was listening and learning, and he wanted to give me the benefit of that. But first, I had to allow myself to be open. It was a new way to think, and it was a struggle. It was a battle to do so. But when I did allow my perceptions of him to change, I saw a whole new person, one of maturity and talent. It began a whole new relationship that was not based on our power struggles or our frustrations. And I realized how much I had already missed out on and what more I could miss out on if I didn't allow this struggle to take place and that outcome to occur. I saw the path I had to take, and what I thought I knew, I let it change and grow into something new and something good. It was a weakness that was used to transform my perceptions, so I found that I could change, and that would make me a stronger person. Letting go of those previous beliefs and opening my mind to something new was that weakness turned into strength. And power is made perfect in weakness. We must recognize our weaknesses, and we must challenge ourselves to overcome them and not let them block our paths to our growth and to change. The people who Jesus met with in the gospel story did not allow themselves to know who Jesus really was. They wouldn't open their minds to change, and they missed his message. And there was a cost for that too. Paul spoke about the thorn in his flesh, yet he didn't let it distract him or turn him sour or away from what he wanted to do. When we realize that that thorn is distracting us, we need to open ourselves to dealing with it and changing what it is that is blocking us from God. When we listen to the word and allow it to come into our hearts, we allow ourselves to mature in the word, and then we're able to share it with each other. We grow in community and share in the one cup. We then have taken that thorn away and have made straight a path to Jesus. By the way, I did let Connor tell me how to wire it, and in no time I had that switch working. So I guess it was a twofer that day, not only the light going on in the hallway, but over my head as well. So the Holy Spirit worked in me, and I pray that the Holy Spirit helps you to keep your eyes and your ears open.